The life and death of Pablo Picasso are as intriguing and multifaceted as his art itself. A man who revolutionized the way we view the world through his groundbreaking contributions to modern art, Picasso's death in 1973 marked the end of an era, yet even in death his legacy has continued to grow, becoming an indelible part of history. But how did Picasso die? Was it simply the end of a long and full life, or were there elements of mystery surrounding his final days? Picasso's art touched millions around the globe, and his work remains as relevant today as it was in the 20th century. With his bold creativity and willingness to challenge the norms of art, Picasso's impact on the world is immeasurable. But when he passed away, many were left with questions. What were the circumstances surrounding his death, and how did the world react to the loss of such a monumental figure? Before we dive deeper into the final chapter of Picasso's life, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like this video to stay up to date with all our content about history and art. Picasso's passing was not just the loss of an artist, it was the loss of a cultural icon. But understanding how he died offers us a unique glimpse into his final years, his health struggles, and the quiet end of a giant. Pablo Picasso was born on October 25, 1881 in Malaga, Spain. From an early age, it was clear that he was destined for greatness. His father, José Ruiz Blasco, a painter and art teacher, recognized his son's extraordinary talent and nurtured. By the time Picasso was 9 years old, he had already completed his first painting, Le Picador, an early sign of his prodigious ability. Growing up in an environment steeped in artistic tradition, Picasso's exposure to art began before he could even speak. At the age of 14, Picasso moved with his family to Barcelona, where he would begin his formal artistic education at the city's prestigious School of Fine Arts. By the time he was 16, he had already mastered classical techniques, but it was clear that he was no ordinary artist. Picasso's thirst for innovation and reinvention soon led him beyond the confines of academic art. His move to Paris in 1904, during the vibrant Belle Époque period, marked the beginning of his transformation into a leading figure of the modern art movement. It was in Paris that Picasso first experimented with the revolutionary artistic techniques that would define his legacy. In 1907, he painted Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, a work that marked the birth of Cubism, a groundbreaking style that would change the art world forever. With his friend Georges Braque, Picasso pushed the boundaries of perspective, deconstructing and reassembling subjects in abstract ways. This period of innovation, marked by fragmented forms and geometric shapes, earned Picasso a reputation as one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. Over the decades, Picasso's artistic evolution continued to astound the world. He explored a multitude of styles and mediums, from surrealism to neoclassicism, from ceramics to sculpture. His work was always a reflection of his inner turmoil, his personal experiences, and his desire to break free from traditional boundaries. Picasso didn't just create art, he created revolutions in every medium he touched. His works, such as Guernica, a monumental response to the Spanish Civil War, revealed the power of art to not only reflect society, but to challenge and reshape it. But Picasso was not only a revolutionary artist, he was a man of contradictions. He had intense personal relationships, particularly with women, many of whom influenced both his personal life and his artwork. His relationship with Fernande Olivier, for instance, was a source of inspiration for some of his most iconic works. Picasso's personal life often mirrored the chaos and tumultuous energy present in his art. His marriages, affairs, and deep connections with his children all contributed to the complexities of his identity as both a person and an artist. As the years passed, Picasso's fame grew, and he became a household name, recognized as one of the most important figures in the history of art. By the time the 1960s arrived, Picasso had already solidified his place in the art pantheon. Yet, as he entered his later years, he began to reflect on his legacy and his health. The vibrant, fearless artist who had once painted furiously, sometimes producing several pieces a day, was now slowing down. His health began to deteriorate, and his days of unrelenting creativity were winding down. But even in his later years, Picasso remained incredibly active. His final works were produced in relative isolation, from his home in Mougins, a small town in the south of France. Despite his declining health, Picasso continued to create, experimenting with new materials and revisiting old themes. He painted well into his 90s, producing an impressive body of work that would ensure his place in art history. Picasso's life was not just about artistic achievement, it was about living on his own terms. He defied convention in both his art and his life, remaining an enigma to those around him. As the world continued to evolve, Picasso's work evolved with it, always challenging the status quo, always questioning, always innovating. As Pablo Picasso entered the 1970s, his life began to take on a quieter, more reflective tone. He was now in his 90s, and his health was deteriorating. Despite the vibrant energy that had once characterized his artistic career, Picasso's final decade was marked by a gradual decline. Physically weakened but still determined to create, Picasso lived in relative seclusion at his home in Mougins, a picturesque village in the south of France. The house, which he shared with his wife, Jacqueline Roque, became a sanctuary where Picasso would continue to work, even as his body betrayed him. Throughout this period, Picasso's art retained the boldness and innovation that had defined his earlier works. He remained deeply involved in his creative process, often revisiting past themes and exploring new ones. His iconic works, such as the Mousquetaire series, were painted during his final years, showcasing his ongoing experimentation with color, form, and line. Picasso was not just reminiscing about the past, he was reinterpreting his own artistic legacy. Despite his continued creative output, Picasso's health was increasingly fragile. He suffered from various ailments, including severe arthritis, which made it difficult for him to hold a paintbrush and caused him great pain. Yet his passion for art never waned. Even though he was unable to produce as much work as he once had, Picasso continued to paint, draw, and sculpt, producing some of his most important works during these years. It was clear that for Picasso, art was not just a profession, it was his lifeblood. While Picasso had once been known for his endless energy and constant drive to innovate, his later years were more introspective. He spent much of his time with Jacqueline, who had become both his muse and his caregiver. Their relationship was intense and complicated, with Picasso often drawing inspiration from her. Jacqueline, in turn, played a significant role in Picasso's life during this period, helping him maintain his artistic focus despite the toll his health was taking on him. In these final years, Picasso's mind remained sharp, even as his body failed him. He often worked late into the night, with his artwork offering a window into his complex emotions. These years were filled with a sense of urgency, as if Picasso knew that his time was running out, but still felt the need to create. It was a time of reflection on his extraordinary career, and he seemed to revisit and reaffirm the creative risks he had taken throughout his life. Despite the physical limitations of old age, Picasso's artistic spirit remained unbroken. He may have slowed down, but his work continued to evolve. His last series, such as the Vase of Flowers paintings, were meditations on life and death, representing the ever-present contrast between creation and destruction. In these final works, Picasso showed that even at the end of his life, he was still exploring new ideas, still asking questions, and still pushing the boundaries of what art could achieve. His final decade was not defined by the frailty of age, but by a continued engagement with his art and the world around him. The artist's determination to work, despite his declining health, was a testament to his passion and commitment. Picasso, the relentless innovator, was not yet ready to leave behind the world that had been shaped by his genius. Even as his body became weaker, his mind and his creativity remained as sharp as ever. On April 8, 1973, Pablo Picasso passed away, at the age of 91 in his home in Mougins, France. The world had already begun to prepare itself for the eventuality of his death, as the artist's frailty had become more evident in the years leading up to that moment. But even in his final days, The magnitude of his passing was felt deeply by the artistic community and the public at large. Picasso's death was not unexpected, but it still came as a profound loss. His health had been in decline for some time. The artist had been suffering from various age-related ailments, including severe arthritis that made it difficult for him to create, as well as the toll of a long life that had been lived intensely. His family and close friends had watched as his physical abilities diminished, but his spirit remained strong. Picasso's commitment to his work until the very end was something that struck those who were closest to him, a testament to his extraordinary drive. On the morning of April 8th, Picasso passed away from heart failure in the presence of his wife Jacqueline Roque. Jacqueline had been Picasso's companion and muse for many years, and their relationship had been a central part of his later life. In the hours before his death, it was said that Picasso had been in relatively good spirits. He had been continuing to work as usual and showed little sign of any immediate threat to his health. However, his body had grown weak, and the toll of old age finally overtook him. Picasso's death, though expected, left a profound emptiness in the art world. He had been an almost constant presence in the landscape of modern art for decades. His influence was unparalleled, and the thought of a world without him was difficult to comprehend for those who had followed his work. The loss of Picasso was not just the loss of a man, it was the loss of a living legend who had shaped the course of art history. After his death, a sense of solemnity took over the global art community. His passing was met with an outpouring of grief, but also with admiration for the legacy he left behind. The art world, already in mourning, quickly moved to commemorate him in the days following his death. His funeral was held on April 10, 1973, at the Church of Notre-Dame-de-Vie in Mougins. The ceremony was attended by close friends, family, and a small group of admirers. His body was laid to rest in a quiet, intimate ceremony, reflecting the reclusive nature of his final years. Interestingly, Picasso's death also spurred a wave of public interest in his work. In the weeks following his passing, museums around the world began to organize retrospectives of his life's work, showcasing the breadth and depth of his influence. There was an undeniable sense of urgency to honor Picasso's artistic legacy, and his death provided a moment for the world to reflect on what he had achieved. Although Picasso's passing marked the end of his life, it also marked the beginning of a new chapter for his art. His paintings, sculptures, and drawings became even more valuable in the years after his death, as collectors and museums scrambled to acquire pieces of his genius. His legacy, already immense during his lifetime, only grew stronger after his death. His works were seen not only as masterpieces of modern art, but as symbols of a world that had been forever changed by his vision. While Picasso's death was a natural end to a long and extraordinary life, it also signified the closing of an era in the world of art. His impact on the 20th century had been nothing short of revolutionary, and the art world struggled to imagine what it would look like without him. Yet, even as the world mourned his passing, there was a palpable sense of gratitude for the body of work he had left behind. Picasso had created art that would endure for generations, and his contributions would continue to inspire future artists for decades to come. In the wake of his death, discussions surrounding Picasso's life and art intensified. Scholars, critics, and enthusiasts alike began to re-examine his work, not just as a historical artifact, but as a living, evolving force in the world of art. Picasso's impact was undeniable, and in death he had become even more of an icon. The news of Pablo Picasso's death reverberated across the world like a shockwave. Though his passing was expected given his age and declining health, the loss was still deeply felt by millions. Picasso was not just an artist, he was a cultural institution, a man whose work had transcended the art world and become a symbol of the 20th century's artistic and intellectual revolutions. The reactions to his death reflected the enormity of his influence on modern art, culture, and society. In the days following Picasso's death, the global art community was filled with an overwhelming sense of loss. Artists, critics, and curators alike spoke in reverence of his genius, acknowledging that his passing marked the end of an era. Many expressed that they felt a profound emptiness as though the very heart of the modern art movement had been taken. Those who had known him personally, such as fellow artists and friends, shared stories of Picasso's brilliance, his eccentricities, and his profound impact on their own work. Picasso's death was not just felt in the art world, but also in the broader cultural landscape. Public figures, intellectuals, and politicians all took a moment to pay tribute to the artist's enduring legacy. In Spain, his home country, his passing was seen as the end of a chapter in the country's cultural history. Despite the political turmoil of the Spanish Civil War and his self-imposed exile from Spain, Picasso was regarded as a national treasure. Spanish leaders, including then Prime Minister Adolfo Suárez, offered their condolences, acknowledging that his work had shaped both the country's artistic legacy and its place in the world's cultural memory. The reaction to Picasso's death was not limited to formal tributes. In cities around the world, spontaneous displays of grief and admiration emerged. People gathered outside museums and galleries to lay flowers and light candles in his honor. In Paris, where Picasso had spent many of his most productive years, crowds gathered outside the Musée Picasso to mourn the loss of the man who had forever changed the face of art. The reactions were as varied as the people who had been influenced by Picasso's work. From mournful silence to celebratory remembrance, Picasso's death evoked a wide range of emotions from his admirers. The public's response was also mirrored in the world of media. Newspapers and television networks across the globe devoted extensive coverage to Picasso's life and death, chronicling his achievements and the profound influence he had had on the development of modern art. Feature stories, interviews with art critics and retrospectives of his work were published in the weeks that followed, further cementing his place as one of the most important cultural figures of the 20th century. The art world was not just reflecting on his passing, but also actively working to ensure his legacy would be preserved for future generations. In the weeks after his death, Picasso's legacy was celebrated through a series of major exhibitions. Museums across Europe and the United States scrambled to present exhibitions dedicated to his work. The Musée Picasso in Paris, the Museu Picasso in Barcelona, and the Tate Gallery in London all organized retrospectives that showcased the vast scope of his artistic career. These exhibitions were not only an opportunity to honor Picasso's memory, but also a way to allow the public to witness the transformative power of his art firsthand. These posthumous tributes and exhibitions contributed to the growing recognition of Picasso's genius and the lasting impact of his work. As museums and galleries displayed his iconic paintings and sculptures, the public was reminded of his role in shaping the trajectory of modern art. Picasso's influence was not just confined to the museum walls. His work had become part of the fabric of everyday culture. From pop culture references to advertisements and fashion, Picasso's image and artistic style were ubiquitous, cementing his place as a cultural icon. Picasso's death sparked a renewed conversation about the meaning of his art and its place in the broader narrative of 20th century history. Scholars and critics began to delve even deeper into his life and works, analyzing his personal relationships, his creative process, and the political undertones of many of his pieces. His art was often a reflection of his tumultuous life, his personal struggles, and the world events that shaped his worldview. Yet his ability to transcend the specifics of his time and create works that spoke to universal themes was a testament to his genius. While Picasso's death marked the end of a chapter, his legacy only continued to grow stronger. The world had lost an artistic giant, but Picasso's work had become an integral part of humanity's cultural heritage. His influence reached far, beyond the world of fine art, touching literature, music, film, and popular culture. Even after his passing, the questions and innovations he posed through his work continued to resonate, keeping his presence alive for generations to come. Pablo Picasso's death in 1973 marked the end of an era in the art world, but his legacy has only grown stronger in the decades since. His influence on modern art is immeasurable, and his works remain some of the most celebrated and valuable pieces of art ever created. Picasso's innovations, particularly in the development of Cubism and his revolutionary approach to form and perspective, continue to inspire artists, scholars, and art lovers worldwide. He not only changed the way we view art, but also the way we understand creativity itself. One of the most remarkable aspects of Picasso's legacy is the sheer breadth and diversity of his work. Over the course of his long career, Picasso experimented with countless styles, techniques, and mediums. From his early blue period, marked by somber tones and emotional depth, to his later, more abstract works, Picasso never confined himself to one approach. His ability to constantly reinvent himself, to break away from traditional methods and explore new ways of seeing the world, is one of the key reasons his art continues to resonate with audiences today. His work transcended the boundaries of painting and sculpture, extending into ceramics, printmaking, and even stage design. This diversity has cemented Picasso as one of the most versatile and prolific artists in history. Picasso's impact on the world of art cannot be overstated. He was a revolutionary figure, both in terms of his artistic contributions and his influence on the direction of modern art. His collaboration with Georges Braque in the early 20th century led to the development of Cubism, a style that would forever change the way artists approached representation. Rather than adhering to the traditional rules of perspective and proportion, Cubism allowed Picasso and Braque to fragment objects and present them from multiple angles simultaneously. This approach was radical and challenging, and it laid the foundation for many of the avant-garde movements that would follow, from futurism to surrealism and beyond. Picasso's work also had a profound effect on the world of art theory. His use of abstraction, combined with his disregard for traditional perspective and proportion, opened up new possibilities for what art could be. No longer confined to realistic depictions of the world, artists were now free to explore the inner workings of the human mind, to express emotions, ideas, and psychological states in ways that had never before been possible. Picasso's contributions to the field of art theory helped pave the way for later movements such as abstract expressionism and minimalism, which would continue to push the boundaries of what art could be. In addition to his formal innovations, Picasso's work was deeply intertwined with the political and social issues of his time. His paintings often reflected the turbulent world in which he lived, from the horrors of war to the struggles for political and social change. One of his most famous works, Guernica, is a powerful anti-war statement in response to the bombing of the Spanish town of Guernica during the Spanish Civil War. The painting, with its chaotic and distorted imagery, became an iconic symbol of the suffering caused by war and a testament to Picasso's ability to use art as a vehicle for political expression. Beyond his formal and political contributions, Picasso's impact on the broader cultural landscape cannot be ignored. His persona as an artist, a revolutionary, and a public figure played a key role in shaping the way art is perceived in the 20th century. He was not just an artist, he was a cultural icon, someone whose work transcended the boundaries of the art world and became part of the fabric of popular culture. His name became synonymous with modern art itself, and his image, with his characteristic mustache, wild hair, and intense gaze, became one of the most recognizable faces in the history of art. The market for Picasso's work has remained incredibly strong even decades after his death. His paintings continue to break records at auction, with some works selling for hundreds of millions of dollars. His popularity shows no signs of waning, and his paintings remain highly sought after by collectors, institutions, and museums worldwide. The value of Picasso's work is not only measured in monetary terms, but also in its cultural significance. His paintings and sculptures have become symbols of artistic achievement, representing the height of human creativity and innovation. Picasso's influence extends far beyond the world of visual art. His ideas and approaches to creativity have shaped the development of other fields, including literature, music, theater, and even architecture. The concept of constant reinvention, of challenging traditional norms and exploring new frontiers, has inspired countless artists and thinkers in various disciplines. His work has become a touchstone for creativity itself, embodying the spirit of artistic freedom and experimentation. Perhaps one of the most enduring aspects of Picasso's legacy is the fact that his work remains as relevant today as it was during his lifetime. The themes of his art, love, loss, war, peace, identity, are universal, and his innovative approach to representation continues to inspire and challenge artists across the globe. The world of art has changed dramatically since Picasso's death, but his influence remains a constant. His work serves as a reminder of the power of art to question, to challenge, and to ultimately transform the way we see and experience the world around us. As we look back on Picasso's life and work, it is clear that his legacy will endure for generations to come. He was a man who not only changed the way art was made, but also the way it was understood. His contributions to modern art and his ability to constantly evolve as an artist are unmatched, and his impact on the cultural landscape is profound and lasting. Picasso may be gone, but his art continues to live on, speaking to us across time, space, and language, reminding us of the limitless possibilities of human creativity. Though Pablo Picasso's life was one of immense public interest, and his death was widely anticipated, the final moments of the artist's life remain shrouded in mystery, sparking curiosity and speculation. Much has been written about Picasso's final years, yet few details are as vivid or as certain as those of his earlier life. The final hours of the artist, as with many great figures, became a subject of intrigue for those who admired him, seeking to understand the man beyond his public persona and the legacy he left behind. On April 8, 1973, Picasso passed away in the home he had lived in for many years in Mougins, a small village in southern France. The circumstances surrounding his death were relatively simple and quiet. Picasso was not in a hospital, but in his private residence, surrounded by those closest to him, especially his wife, Jacqueline Roquet. In fact, it was Jacqueline who was with him when he passed away. She had been a source of both inspiration and care for Picasso during his final years, providing him with support as his health deteriorated due to old age and arthritis. Some reports suggest that Picasso's death came suddenly, catching many by surprise, even though his health had been declining. In the days leading up to his passing, Picasso had continued to work in his studio, producing sketches and paintings. His physical strength, however, had waned considerably, and his age was beginning to take its toll. The artist had suffered from severe arthritis, which restricted his ability to paint with the same dexterity he had once enjoyed. Nonetheless, Picasso's will to create never left him, and he worked until the very end, his passion for art unyielding, despite his frailty. One of the most poignant aspects of Picasso's final moments is the way he chose to spend his last days. Picasso was not a man who shied away from death. Rather, he confronted it with the same intensity and irreverence that marked his approach to life and art. In his final days, Picasso's work continued to reflect themes of life, death, and the passage of time. His last pieces were deeply introspective, and in many ways a reflection of the artist's awareness of his own mortality. These works, like much of his earlier art, explored the complexity of human existence and the emotional spectrum of the human condition. What is particularly enigmatic about Picasso's final moments is the relative silence surrounding them. There were no grand final statements or dramatic events leading up to his death. Picasso's passing was, in many ways, as understated as his private life had been in his later years. Despite being one of the most famous and influential artists in history, Picasso spent his last years in relative seclusion, often away from the public eye. This privacy, combined with his increasingly fragile health, left few witnesses to his last moments. There are also some aspects of Picasso's death that remain elusive, particularly in terms of the nature of his passing. Officially, it was recorded that Picasso died of heart failure, but there have been rumors and alternate theories that suggest other possibilities. Some suggest that Picasso may have died from complications related to his long-standing health issues, while others speculate that stress and emotional exhaustion played a role in his decline. Regardless, the true cause of Picasso's death is something that continues to be debated, adding an element of mystery to the end of his extraordinary life. Moreover, Picasso's death was not a public affair in the traditional sense. The artist had always been a man of extremes, and even his passing was marked by simplicity rather than spectacle. There was no grand public farewell or elaborate funeral procession. Instead, Picasso was laid to rest quietly in the village where he had spent his final years. His funeral was a private affair, attended only by close friends, family, and a few admirers. The public mourning that followed, though widespread, was more a tribute to his life's work and legacy than to the private man he had been in his final days. Despite the mystery surrounding his final moments, what remains undeniable is that Picasso's death marked the end of a significant chapter in art history. His life and work continue to inspire, challenge, and provoke thought even decades after his passing. The questions surrounding his death only serve to reinforce the enduring sense of intrigue that surrounds the man himself. Picasso's art was always about more than just the visual. It was about uncovering deeper truths, challenging perceptions, and provoking the imagination. Even in his death, he continues to do just that. The death of Pablo Picasso did not mark the end of his influence. Rather, it signaled the beginning of an even more profound legacy that continues to shape the art world today. Picasso's innovations were so groundbreaking that they left a lasting imprint on not only his contemporaries, but also on the generations of artists who followed him. His influence extends beyond visual art, affecting areas such as literature, design, film, and even music, and continues to resonate with artists worldwide. One of the most significant aspects of Picasso's legacy is his role in the development of modern art. His contributions to Cubism alone changed the trajectory of art history, challenging traditional ideas of perspective and representation. Artists like Georges Braque, Juan Gris, and others who participated in the early days of Cubism would forever be indebted to Picasso's revolutionary approach. This movement, which fragmented and reassembled objects in a way that had never been seen before, not only influenced visual artists but also impacted the way people viewed the world around them. The spatial abstraction of Cubism gave birth to movements such as Futurism and Surrealism, which would continue to push the boundaries of artistic expression. Picasso's exploration of form and color, coupled with his rejection of classical methods of representation, laid the foundation for abstract expressionism. Artists like Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, and Willem de Kooning were inspired by Picasso's daring use of abstraction to evoke emotion rather than adhere to realism. His emphasis on spontaneity, movement, and the psychological complexity of the human figure was particularly influential on the abstract expressionist movement, which sought to convey inner experiences through non-representational art. Moreover, Picasso's work in the later years of his life, particularly his experiments with ceramic art, demonstrated that his creative spirit had no boundaries. His ventures into ceramics were not merely technical exercises, they were an extension of his lifelong interest in pushing the limits of what art could be. Picasso's exploration of three-dimensional forms on a functional medium like ceramics inspired countless artists to embrace non-traditional materials and to see art as something that could occupy multiple spaces and forms. Picasso's influence can also be seen in the realm of graphic design and commercial art. His innovative use of geometric shapes and distorted forms found their way into advertising, fashion, and product design. For instance, his abstracted faces and figures, often simplified and stylized, became iconic images that could be reproduced and commercialized. His distinctive visual language, seen in works like Les Demoiselles d'Avignon or Guernica, would later be appropriated in various forms of pop culture and design, from album covers to advertisements, proving that his aesthetic had a far-reaching cultural significance. Beyond his artistic innovations, Picasso's ability to reinvent himself continuously became a model for future generations of artists. The concept of artistic evolution, the idea that an artist's style and approach are not fixed but rather fluid and open to change, was central to Picasso's career. He embraced new ideas, methods, and materials throughout his life, refusing to be constrained by tradition or the expectations of the art world. This fearless experimentation inspired artists to approach their own work with the same sense of freedom and openness. The notion of an artist continually challenging their own creative limits remains a guiding principle for many contemporary artists today. Picasso's willingness to confront difficult social and political issues through his art also set a precedent for later generations of artists. His works, such as Guernica and the Charnel House, continue to serve as powerful commentaries on war, oppression, and human suffering. Contemporary artists, from those working in the realm of social realism to those addressing political or environmental issues, continue to draw inspiration from Picasso's ability to use his art as a vehicle for commentary and change. His legacy demonstrates that art is not only a reflection of personal expression, but also a means to engage with the broader issues of society and the world at large. The impact of Picasso's legacy extends into the realms of academia as well. Art historians and scholars continue to study his life and work, dissecting the layers of meaning embedded in his pieces. Picasso's oeuvre is constantly re-evaluated in new light, with scholars finding fresh interpretations of his work, often seeing new political, social, or emotional dimensions in pieces that have already been widely studied. His impact on art education is equally significant, with his methods of breaking down form and experimenting with abstraction forming the foundation for art curriculums around the world. Picasso's role as a teacher and mentor to younger artists, especially in his later years, has further cemented his legacy as an influential figure in shaping future artistic movements. Even in the world of popular culture, Picasso's presence continues to be felt. References to his work appear in films, books, music, and even fashion. His distinctive style has been co-opted and adapted in a multitude of contexts, from the avant-garde art world to mainstream entertainment. The fact that Picasso's name remains synonymous with genius, innovation, and artistic achievement reflects the enduring relevance of his work and vision. In addition, his work has become a touchstone for measuring the evolution of art over the 20th century. Future movements in art have often been seen in contrast to Picasso's work, either building upon or reacting against his innovations. His influence on the development of both modern and contemporary art is undeniable, and his artistic revolution paved the way for the visual language of the 21st century. Picasso's influence, far from fading after his death, continues to inspire countless artists and art enthusiasts. His work challenges us to see the world through a new lens, to question norms, and to embrace the unknown. His legacy reminds us that the pursuit of creativity is not just about perfection, but about constant reinvention, exploration, and the courage to defy convention. As long as art exists, Picasso's presence will continue to shape its evolution. Picasso's art continues to captivate audiences worldwide, transcending time and geography in ways that few artists can claim. Decades after his death, his works are as relevant and influential as ever. But what is it about Picasso's art that keeps it so compelling, even for modern audiences who were not alive during his lifetime? To understand the enduring appeal of Picasso's work, we must look at several key aspects: his artistic innovation, his emotional depth, and the universal themes his art addresses. One of the primary reasons Picasso's work continues to resonate is his groundbreaking innovation. Throughout his life, Picasso sought to challenge artistic norms, constantly evolving and reinventing his style. This unrelenting pursuit of new forms and techniques led him to develop movements like Cubism, which fundamentally changed the way we perceive space and form in art. Picasso's ability to break away from traditional rules of representation opened the door for future generations of artists to explore abstraction, multiple perspectives, and fragmented imagery. His work pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible in visual art, and this spirit of innovation continues to inspire artists around the world today. Equally important is the emotional depth Picasso infused into his work. Despite the abstraction and fragmentation of many of his pieces, there is an undeniable emotional resonance in his art. Whether it's the sorrowful figures of his Blue Period or the violent anguish of Guernica, Picasso's art is filled with raw emotion. He was a master of capturing the complexity of the human experience, using his work as a mirror for the emotions, conflicts, and struggles of the time. His art serves as a reflection of his own tumultuous personal life, as well as the political. and social upheaval of the 20th century. The depth and intensity of emotion conveyed in his work speak directly to the human condition, making his art timeless and universally relatable. Picasso also had an uncanny ability to distill complex ideas into simple, often stark imagery. His most famous works, like Les Demoiselles d'Avignon or Guernica, are examples of how Picasso was able to convey deep social, political, and personal meanings with deceptively simple forms. The iconic imagery of distorted faces, fragmented bodies, and disjointed perspectives may seem chaotic at first glance, but they are deliberate choices that convey profound insights into the nature of human experience. The accessibility of his art, coupled with its layered complexity, ensures that each viewer can find something different, something personal, in every piece. Additionally, Picasso's art often explores universal themes that continue to resonate with audiences across time and culture. Love, war, identity, and the passage of time are subjects that appear throughout his career, and these themes are as relevant today as they were in the 20th century. In Guernica, Picasso confronted the horrors of war and the devastating impact of political violence, themes that remain just as pertinent in today's world. His works dealing with the human figure, particularly his many portraits of women, explore the complexities of relationships, beauty, and identity, subjects that are ever present in contemporary society. The way Picasso tackled these universal issues ensures that his art continues to speak to people from all walks of life, no matter their background or context. Moreover, Picasso's legacy is not confined solely to his paintings. His sculptures, ceramics, and prints reveal yet another facet of his artistic genius. In his later years, Picasso expanded his artistic horizons, experimenting with three-dimensional forms in a way that reflected the same boldness he had shown in his paintings. His ceramic works, for example, were not simply decorative, but were infused with the same innovation and personal expression that marked his two-dimensional work. The sheer variety of his output, spanning painting, sculpture, ceramics, printmaking, and more, ensures that there is always something new to discover for those who appreciate his work. Picasso's public persona also contributed to the lasting appeal of his art. As an artist, he was as larger-than-life as the works he created. His enigmatic personality, his boldness, and his confidence in his own genius were a central part of his public image. He was often a figure of controversy, challenging societal norms not only through his art, but through his lifestyle. His relationships, both personal and professional, were often unconventional, and he was a constant source of fascination for the media. This larger-than-life persona became inseparable from his artistic legacy, making his work even more intriguing. The fascination with Picasso as a person has only helped to fuel the ongoing appeal of his art, ensuring that it remains in the public eye long after his death. In the art market, Picasso's work continues to break records. His paintings regularly fetch tens of millions of dollars at auction, with some pieces reaching over $100 million. This financial value underscores not only the continued cultural relevance of Picasso's art, but also its desirability as a collector's item. However, it's not just the financial worth of Picasso's work that makes it enduring. It's the fact that his pieces continue to speak to people, continuing to evoke powerful emotions and provoke deep thought. Picasso's art is not merely an object of financial value. It is a living, breathing force that continues to influence and inspire. In many ways, Picasso's work has become a symbol of artistic freedom, creativity, and innovation. His refusal to be bound by any one style or approach serves as a reminder that art is about constant evolution and exploration. His work challenges us to see the world differently, to question the status quo, and to engage with life in new ways. Whether through his groundbreaking Cubist works or his deeply emotional paintings and sculptures, Picasso's art forces us to think, feel, and reflect. It is this unique combination of innovation, emotional depth, and universality that ensures Picasso's place in the pantheon of great artists and guarantees the enduring appeal of his work for generations to come. The death of Pablo Picasso in 1973 marked the closure of an era in the art world, but it also initiated an ongoing dialogue about his life and legacy. For many, Picasso's passing brought a sense of finality, yet it sparked a multitude of reflections and interpretations that continue to shape the understanding of his art. Picasso was and still is a figure who elicits both admiration and intrigue, with his death serving as a pivotal moment for both personal and cultural reckoning. In the years following Picasso's death, there was a rush to preserve and interpret his work. Museums, galleries, and institutions began to pay more attention to his vast oeuvre, organizing retrospectives that solidified his place as one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. In this sense, Picasso's death, rather than signaling the end of his influence, marked the beginning of an even deeper exploration of his contributions to art and culture. His works, previously viewed through the lens of a living genius, were now examined with a sense of reverence and historical importance, which only heightened the mystique surrounding his life and artistic journey. Despite the monumental impact of his art, Picasso was never a static figure. Even in death, interpretations of his work continue to evolve. For some, his life and death reflect the ideal of the artist as an eternal figure, one who transcends the boundaries of time and geography, whose work speaks across generations. Others view his passing with a more somber perspective, recognizing that the world of art had lost not only a groundbreaking artist, but also an icon of personal reinvention. Picasso's restless spirit, constantly seeking new forms and ways of expression, remains embedded in his art and in the way we perceive creativity itself. Picasso's death is also an occasion to reflect on the complexity of his personality and life. While he was widely admired for his artistic genius, his personal life was often marked by tumultuous relationships, controversy, and deep emotional complexities. His passionate relationships with women, his shifting political views, and his moments of profound self-reflection created a persona that was both enigmatic and intensely human. In the years following his death, the public grappled with the contradictions within Picasso, the artist whose work revolutionized the world of art, but whose personal life often mirrored the chaos and turbulence of the times he lived through. Art historians and biographers have continually revisited Picasso's life, offering new insights and interpretations of his character and his work. Some scholars focus on his role in political movements, particularly his involvement with leftist causes and the Spanish Civil War. Others delve into his personal struggles and their influence on his artistic output. The discussions surrounding Picasso's legacy are not one-dimensional. They are a reflection of his complex character and the multifaceted nature of his contributions to the world of art. Beyond academic circles, the public's perception of Picasso's death is also informed by the enduring myth of the artist as a larger-than-life figure. Picasso, with his defiant nature and groundbreaking contributions to art, became a symbol of artistic genius that transcended the individual. His death allowed for the creation of this myth, a narrative that continues to inform how his life is perceived today. The artist who refused to be confined to any single style or ideology became an enduring symbol of the power of innovation and the potential for art to change the world. In many ways, Picasso's death also invited a reassessment of the cultural and political climate of the time. His life spanned the major conflicts and changes of the 20th century, from the Spanish Civil War to the rise of fascism and the development of modernist movements. As such, Picasso's art, and by extension his death, became a mirror reflecting the social and political upheavals of his time. His final works, and the interpretations of those works after his passing, continue to resonate with contemporary movements and political ideas, underscoring the enduring relevance of his message. Perhaps one of the most poignant aspects of Picasso's death is that it did not signal the end of his relevance, but rather affirmed the lasting impact of his work. His death served as a moment for reflection, but his artistic achievements continue to inspire. The world may have lost Picasso, but his legacy lives on through his art, which continues to provoke thought, spark debate, and challenge the boundaries of artistic expression. His death, then, is not just the closing of a chapter, but the continuation of an ongoing conversation about creativity, identity, and the ever-evolving nature of art. Pablo Picasso's legacy is one that endures, not only in the annals of art history, but also in the fabric of contemporary culture. His revolutionary approach to form, his constant reinvention of style, and his unrelenting passion for exploration made him a true icon, whose influence reaches far beyond the galleries and museums that house his works. Today, Picasso's impact on the art world is undeniable, and his legacy serves as both a foundation for modern and contemporary art and a symbol of artistic freedom. One of the most profound aspects of Picasso's legacy is his role in shaping the development of modern art. His innovations, particularly in the creation of Cubism with Georges Braque, transformed the way art was conceived and viewed. By breaking away from traditional perspectives and introducing a fragmented, multidimensional approach to form, Picasso and Braque opened up new possibilities for representing the world. This redefinition of perspective laid the groundwork for the abstraction that followed in the 20th century. Movements such as abstract expressionism, surrealism, and even pop art all found roots in Picasso's early work, and his influence continues to reverberate through contemporary art. Picasso's contribution to art was not confined to his formal innovations. His emotional depth and ability to express the complexities of human experience were equally transformative. Whether capturing the trauma of war in Guernica, the loneliness of his Blue Period works, or the exuberant energy of his later works, Picasso was a master at conveying emotion through art. He made it clear that art was not simply about technique or beauty. It was a vehicle for personal expression, social commentary, and emotional truth. This emotional depth is what allows Picasso's work to resonate so strongly even today. His art speaks to the human condition in a way that is both timeless and universal. The versatility and range of Picasso's work also contribute significantly to his lasting legacy. Unlike many artists who became identified with a single style or period, Picasso constantly pushed himself to explore new techniques, materials, and themes. His ability to seamlessly shift from Cubism to Surrealism, from realism to abstraction, ensured that his work would remain relevant across changing artistic movements. His exploration of sculpture, ceramics, printmaking, and other media further expanded the boundaries of what art could be. Picasso's refusal to be confined by any one tradition or style means that his work is continually fresh and continues to inspire artists from diverse disciplines to this day. Picasso's work also sparked a re-evaluation of what art could mean in society. In his early career, his art was considered avant-garde, but by the time of his death, Picasso had firmly established himself as a pillar of modern art. He challenged long-held notions about artistic tradition, inviting viewers to engage with art in new and dynamic ways. His works were not just about aesthetics, they were about disrupting the status quo, challenging societal conventions, and breaking down the boundaries between high art and popular culture. Picasso's willingness to explore both intellectual and political themes through his art created a broader understanding of the role art could play in society. He proved that art had the power to challenge perceptions, provoke thought, and spark conversation. Another enduring aspect of Picasso's legacy is the way he made art accessible to a wider audience. While his works were initially considered challenging and provocative, they eventually became recognized as part of the cultural canon. Picasso's popularity among collectors, art institutions, and the public grew exponentially after his death. His works now grace the walls of museums and private collections around the world, with pieces regularly commanding record-breaking prices at auction. Picasso's art is not just for connoisseurs, it has become a part of mainstream culture, reaching people from all walks of life. His influence can be seen in a variety of fields, from fashion to advertising, and his distinctive style has been appropriated in countless forms of media. Furthermore, Picasso's legacy is not only about his artistic achievements, but also about his impact on the generations of artists who followed him. Countless contemporary artists have cited Picasso as a source of inspiration, and his influence can be seen in the work of both well-known figures and emerging talents. His role as a mentor and his relationships with other artists also helped shape the trajectory of modern art. By collaborating with and encouraging fellow artists, Picasso created an artistic community that transcended geographical and stylistic boundaries. He was instrumental in shaping not only the visual language of the 20th century, but also the culture of collaboration and exchange within the art world. Beyond the art world, Picasso's life and work continue to be a source of fascination for scholars, biographers, and even casual admirers. His life story, full of romance, drama, and controversy, has captivated the public imagination for decades. Documentaries, biographies, films, and exhibitions continue to explore the nuances of his personal life, shedding light on the contradictions that defined him as both a man and an artist. The constant re-evaluation of Picasso's life and work ensures that his influence is continually brought into focus, and his place in the pantheon of great artists remains secure. Picasso's death may have closed one chapter, but it opened another, one in which his art continues to live on, inspire, and challenge. His legacy is marked by a vast body of work, but it is also characterized by his unwavering commitment to innovation, his exploration of the emotional depths of the human experience, and his enduring impact on the art world. As long as art continues to evolve and inspire, Picasso's influence will remain at its core. His legacy is not just about his iconic paintings, it is about the spirit of artistic freedom and creative exploration that he embodied, and that continues to define art today. The death of Pablo Picasso did not end his influence on the art world. Instead, it solidified his place as one of the most iconic figures in the history of art, whose impact continues to resonate in countless ways. Picasso's work transcended time, style, and geography, and his legacy is not confined to the works he left behind, but also in the way he transformed how art is perceived and created. Through his pioneering contributions, Picasso revolutionized the language of modern art. His innovations, such as Cubism, broke away from traditional representations of reality and paved the way for abstraction, expressionism, and other 20th century movements. His works challenged conventions, defied expectations, and forced both artists and audiences to rethink what art could be. Picasso was not just an artist, he was a visionary who saw beyond the surface of the world, reshaping it through his distinctive lens of creativity. Whether through his portrayal of emotional suffering, the turmoil of war, or the exploration of the human figure, Picasso's art spoke to universal themes that continue to resonate with people across generations. The depth of his emotional expression and the range of his artistic exploration allowed Picasso's work to remain relevant across multiple disciplines. From painting and sculpture to ceramics and printmaking, Picasso's ever-expanding body of work allowed him to leave a legacy of unparalleled breadth. His art was not static, but fluid, evolving in response to the changing times and his own shifting personal beliefs and experiences. This commitment to artistic exploration, coupled with his fearlessness in confronting new ideas, ensured that Picasso's influence would extend far beyond his own lifetime. In the years following his death, Picasso's work has continued to captivate new generations. His paintings are not just viewed as masterpieces, they are sources of inspiration, discussion, and innovation. His approach to form and content continues to influence contemporary artists, designers, filmmakers, and writers who look to his work as a model of creativity, courage, and constant reinvention. Picasso's death did not end his journey as an artist. It propelled him into the future where his ideas and aesthetics continue to inspire, provoke, and challenge. Picasso's ability to reinvent himself, his relentless pursuit of new forms of expression, and his commitment to capturing the essence of the human experience are qualities that will ensure his place in history as one of the greatest artists of all time. His death was not an end, but a transition, a moment that allowed the world to recognize the full extent of his genius and its lasting impact on the cultural landscape. Picasso's legacy lives on, not just in the walls of museums or the hands of collectors, but in the hearts and minds of those who continue to be moved by his art. In conclusion, Picasso's life and work represent the power of art to transcend time, borders, and ideas. His legacy is a testament to the enduring importance of creativity, innovation, and expression. As long as the world continues to appreciate art, Picasso's name will remain synonymous with artistic freedom, transformation, and a boundless imagination that knows no end.